President Trump hailing the brand new trade deal with Mexico and Canada as a major win for the American worker. So what was the Trump administration able to secure for the U.S. that NAFTA had left out? Here to break it down is former chief economist for the U.S. International Trade Commission, Peter Morici. Peter, thanks for coming on this morning. Justin Trudeau called this a win-win-win for all three countries. I just want to ask, who do you think won the most in this deal?
The American worker and Donald Trump. The American worker, because this agreement provides safeguards against, for example, cheap, subsidized Chinese auto parts going into Mexico, being assembled and then sent across the border. It applies also to textiles and chemicals. Biologicals, we didn't have those in 1993 when we were negotiating NAFTA. Oh. Now we do. We have safeguards there to ensure that American biological drugs, are made in North America for at least 10 years after their introduction. There's a lot of updating in the technology sector, which is very, very important, things that we didn't have 25 years ago and that America leads.
Okay, let's take a look. Let's bullet point the USMCA. It's no longer NAFTA now. USMCA, you're going to get used to hearing that. It's a $1.2 trillion deal, which evidently governs the largest or the most amount in U.S. history, the biggest deal we've ever had. It protects intellectual property, which is important for a number of reasons we'll get to later. And also, it does help the U.S. farmer, particularly the dairy farmer. And that was very important for the president to secure that protection. Tell us why.
Well, the Canadians are running a very arcane protection program in dairy farming, a kind of price support program that, for example, the Australians abandoned 20 years ago and had no real negative effects on their dairy industry. What they've managed to do in Canada is keep out American milk, overcharge poor children, and subsidize very inefficient dairy farmers that have modernized. What this agreement does is requires Canada's dairy industry to modernize, gives fair market access to important states like Wisconsin, Vermont, and New York, which are our big dairy states.
Right.
So that's really good.
And yeah, I mean, when we're talking about the midterms coming up here, did this deal get in just in the nick of time to give people confidence, I guess, to make those votes in some of those Midwest states that do a lot of farming?
I sure hope so. Don't want to kill the story, but given what's going on with the Kavanaugh situation, this should cause people on those northern tier states to look and turn around and say, who's really working for my interest, Donald Trump or the gang of socialists that want to take over the United States?
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of red and blue states that are going to benefit from this, and it could be in the nick of time for the midterms. We'll see. The big one, of course, is China. This all leads into China. We might do Europe before that, but particularly the intellectual theft part of the USMCA, they're going to try and bridge that over to China as well and make some big protections there. How do you think this goes?
Well, I think there's two elements here. One is the intellectual property protection, and the other is, which people are overlooking, there's an exchange rate provision. Both of those can provide models for negotiating in Asia. They're the kinds of things that Barack Obama did not accomplish in the Trans-Pacific Agreement that Donald Trump decided to back out of. So this is very, very important because now it lays out what we expect. Moreover, the Europeans said, and this is important, that, the Mexicans agreeing was one thing, but don't think we're going to roll over like the Mexicans because, you've got a lot of leverage there. Canada, which is really squarely in the European camp, it's got a free trade agreement with Europe that Britain won't have, rolled over. That is, they decided in the end it was better to make a deal with us. This is a clear message to China and Europe that this president is serious about not putting America above all other countries or really America first, but by putting America on an equal footing and giving American workers a fair and decent chance at competing in the world.
The president, as you know, has said now for years that if the United States, Mexico, and Canada could not negotiate a better trade deal, then he would scrap NAFTA. Well, his administration is saying this morning they have done just that and gotten a better deal in the form of this U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, or the USMCA, as they are already calling it. The administration, senior administration officials are making this argument this morning. They say it's better for the United States, better for workers, because there's protections as it relates to intellectual property. They say auto workers are going to be paid more parts of vehicles are going to be made within the region as well. And they also say that this is a win, especially for farmers as it relates to dairy. Dairy was one of the major sticking points here for the U.S., and administration officials are telling us that there will be greater market access for U.S. dairy farmers. All sides, though, here, all three countries are making the case this morning, though, that this is a win all around.
The deal. A good day for Canada. A great day for America, a great day for North America. And Brian, my favorite part of the deal is the fact it's going to turn this hemisphere back into a manufacturing powerhouse.
Some early critics, though, are saying that this USMCA is essentially just a fine-tuning of NAFTA, that there really isn't much different when you look at the whole piece. Congress is going to have its say on this one, though, and probably in 2019, as Congress will eventually have to give it the thumbs up for this to go into place. And as you look ahead, it is crazy to think about looking ahead to 2019, Sandra, but this will be one of the big issues in 2019, especially with Democrats and potentially whether or not they will give the president a major trade victory. By the way, Sandra, the steel and aluminum tariffs against Canada, against Mexico, still in place. The Trump administration is saying this is a totally separate issue. They say that is in the hands of the Commerce Department.
Blake, by the way, they're calling this a news conference from the Rose Garden at the White House, so the president could answer questions, of course.
We await, because we've seen the president kind of take these victory laps. You'll remember after tax reform, they did it on the South Lawn in front of the South Portico there. The president made a statement, didn't take any questions. When there was 4% GDP, same thing, South Lawn didn't take any questions. Rose Garden, though, normally a format or a place where he does take questions. We'd love to ask. I'll raise my hand.
We'll
Lots
see.
of questions here,
We
Sandra.
know you will.